Good afternoon. My name is Chukwuma Emmanuel with student number 23102231. In slide 1 today, we are presenting a case study that explores the ongoing debates around diversity, why it matters, and whether it should be viewed as a social or business issue. Diversity goes beyond race and genders. It involves embracing different perspectives, backgrounds, and ideas. Some see it as a moral responsibility, while others argue it boosts innovation and financial performance. Our group consists of 4 members from different cultural backgrounds, reflect the very diversity we are analyzing today. Let's begin by exploring by the people's care so much about. In slide 2, we have table of content. In slide 2, our main objective is to explore whether diversity among the higher management requires registration and how is wider implementation as issue in society and a corporate necessity. In order to achieve the same, we have detailed 4 main objectives. Firstly, we explain how leadership diversity impacts decisions making, innovation, and performance. Secondly, we consider the social implication of interpretation at the leadership levels of ethnic minorities and women. Thirdly, we discuss the benefit as well as the possible drawbacks of registrative diversity. Lastly, we try to find the underlying causes for a lack of diversity in top leaders. Despite increased global focus on diversity, equity, and inclusion, women, ethnic minorities are still several underrepresented in senior leadership roles. According to McKinsey and the Company 2024, this is a present issue across nearly all industries. For example, as of 2024, only 10% of Fortune 50 are women, and ethnic minorities hold less than 15% of executive positions in FTSE 100 firms. Women of color face the steepest barriers. This situation raises criteria questions. Is diversity simply a moral responsibility, or does it hold strategic business value as well? Should government enforce diversity targets? In addition, can business make meaningful changes on their own? These questions form the foundation of our discussion as we explore these urgent and complex issues. Understanding the current context in crucial diversity, equity, and inclusion, or DI, are no longer just ethnic concerns. They have become central to global business strategies as highlighted by Rosa's 2025. DEI is now at the forefront of governance conversation. Investors are demanding in via ESG matters regularities. Regulators are implementing policies like board diversity rules, and consumers and employees alike pushing for fair representation. This business case also clear companies with diverse leadership report up to 36 higher profitable social movements. In slide 5, the report is primarily targeted at senior decision makers and policy advisors within large corporations in the UK and the EU, especially HR departments and executive teams, as well as government policymakers considering diversity regulation in the private sector. These groups are crucial because they direct shape hiring, promotions, and the leadership development strategies Moreover, regulation bodies have the authority to implement diversity quotas or legal mandates, while investors now demand greater ESG transparency and representation. Our aim, our aim is to warn business leadership of the worth of diversity and its casual relationship to perform. In so doing, we also seek to assist policymakers to determine whether legal provision is necessary and effective.
Hello, my name is Victor David. In this section, I will guide you through our research strategy and some of the fundamental theoretical perspective that we use to examine the question of leadership diversity both from ethical and standard standpoints. Slide 7. In this slide, to research top leadership diversity and the potential of legislation, we used a mixed method strategies. We performed secondary data analysis based on academic journals, McKinsey and Catalyst industry reports, and the UK government statistical information such as gender pay gaps reports. We subsequently based our analysis on three major theoretical frameworks. First one is the business care for diversity. Rosabeth Moscanter, that is, was in 1977, critical mass theory, and Freeman's 1984, the stakeholder theory. This integrity strategy enables intense academic and practical insight into the issue, leading to a balanced interpretation. To critically examine diversity in senior leadership, we employed three key theoretical frameworks. The first is McKinsey Business Case Study for Diversity, which underscores that groups led by diverse individuals are 36 more likely to financially outperform with improved innovation and decision making. The second one is Rosabeth Moss-Hunter critical mass theory, which postulates that optimal impact is realized when diversity is at critical mass level of about 30%, where technologism and authentic inclusions are magnified. Third one is Freeman's stakeholder theory, which identifies that business need to serve not only shareholders but also stakeholders, and that ethical obligation is due to society at large. These models collectively provide business and ethical grounds and enable us to consider whether or not legislation is necessary and how diversity performs brand reputation and long-term effort. Slide 10. This slide examines the very core argument. Should gender and authentic diversity at the top be legally enforced or be voluntary ethical imperative? According to Pew Research 2019, 75% of American adults support the idea of promoting workplace diversity, but 74% also believe that hiring should be quantitatively based on qualification, even if reduce the diversity. This highlights such significant tensions between ideals of meritocracy and the merits base that was and the power of inclusion. It also revolves thus subsequently in public opinion that make it hard to consider enforcing diversity through legislation. Our case study develops into this tension closely enough that we can decide whether voluntary effort to diversity suffice or whether the legislation is necessary to implement a significant change. Slide 11. This slide identifies the growing sense of gender societal progress in gender equality and diversity. 69% and 68% feel that their countries have become more diverse and gender equality has improved respectively, according to Pew Research Center 2020. These changes in society have not translated into leadership to the extent yet. Executive boards continue to be devoid of adequate representation from diverse quarters. The gap between perceived advancement and structural reality indicates a material problem, including diversification at the cultural level. Power to decide is still in the hands of the few, visual or symbolical. Diversity may hide long standing leadership deficits. Slide 12. This slide reveals just how far we are still are from achieving gender parity in leadership, especially without interventions. According to the World Economic Forum 2025, it will take 76, as you can see, years for Europe, 89 years for North America, and over 200 years for regions like Central Asia to reach gender equality at the current pace. These estimates show that voluntary efforts may be far too slow. The data emphasizes the urgency of proactive measures, whether through policy quotas or structured inclusions initiatives. The key takeaway is clear: meaningful change in gender representation is not likely to happen on its own. Without intervention, leadership equality could take centuries in some parts of the world, making this not just a social issue but also a generational one. Thank you.
Hi, I am Pobitra Bhushon. My part focuses on what the data tells us about the business case for gender diversity and why legal mandates might be necessary to address slow and inconsistent progress across organizations. Now I am going to explain slide number 13. This slide highlights why gender diversity in leadership is not only a social imperative but also a business advantage. According to McKinsey and Company 2022, companies with high gender diversity in investing roles consistently overperform industry benchmarks. They also experience lower attrition rates among women. Leading finds reports 30 to 35% women in senior positions, while leading firms fall below 15%. The research also indicates that diversity leaders are able to attract and retain more talent and deliver more stable financial performance. The message is clear: equity and profitability are not arbitrary. Diverse leadership is a straightforward interpretation of competitive advantage. Gender diversity investment is a sound and realistic strategy for business to attain long-term achievement. Slide number 14. This is the case for why legislative mandates are going to be required in order to bring about a substantive diversity of leadership. Voluntarism is being spasmodic and slow over decades of DEI advocacy, with leadership remaining solidity male and non-minority. Legislation can help by establishing specific targets and timelines. It also brings with it entitlement of accountability, excluding shallow surface performative programs and demanding transparency at the executive level. There's precedent internationally as well. Norway, France, and Germany, for example, have experienced quantifiable results after adopting quotas. Apart from ethics, diversity also enhances business performance, yielding quality decision making and innovation. The concept is that mandates don't bring standards down but remove structural barriers that hinder qualified persons from moving forward. Slide number 15. While legislation can drive change, it's important to recognize that challenges and criticism. First is the perceived threat to meritocracy. Critics argue that quota may prioritize identity over qualification, potentially leading to tokenism. Second, corporate resistance is common, with business viewing legal mandates as instructive or bureaucratic, often fearing increased reporting demands or legal risks. PCAOB 2022. Third, a one-size-fits-all approach may not work. Some industries or regions may lack the recruitment pool or cultural or readiness to meet quotas, especially smaller enterprise. The balanced takeaway here is that mandates alone are not enough. They must be supported by deeper organizational shift like inclusive hiring practices, bias training, and leadership development to ensure diversity leads to true equity and inclusion. Slide number 16. Norway's quota law on gender is an ideal example of the impact of legislation. Norway compelled 40% of listed company board members to be female in 2003 and provided firms with until 2008 to implement it. More than 40% of board positions were held by women in 2009 compared to a mere 6% in 2001, thereby making Norway the first nation to achieve near equal board membership. This fueled other legislations in Europe as well, and it changed the perception of leadership among people. Most important, so no negative business impact was discovered. Challenges remain, however, executive levels did not experience the same surge, and some firms attempt to circumvent the legislations. The takeaway is that while quotas are conducive to quick turnaround in the boardroom, more cultural change and inclusion initiatives must be implemented for sustainability.
Hello, good day. I am Muhammad Zubair Farooq. My student ID is 2310324, and I will conclude our presenting by highlighting the deeper barriers to leadership diversity, summarizing our key findings and presenting recommendations of driving long-term inclusion and change. I explained slide 17. Despite increased attention to DI senior leadership advancement and maintaining this obligation, this slide outlines five general obstacles. First, unconscious basis dictates perceptions regarding to who would be a good candidate for a leadership role, generally keeping women and minorities out. Second, homogeneous corporate cultures might keep a diverse talent. And third, there are pipeline issues favor women and minorities hold feeder rules. And fourth, many organizations have weak accountability mechanism and DA efforts lack measurable goals. And finally, global variation in DA varieties complicates progress, especially for multinational firms. The key insights that hiring alone is not enough. Real change requires a culture informed transformation, enforce accountability, and sustained leadership commitment. And slide 18, our findings reveal four major takeaways. First, diversity gaps remain significant, and women and ethnic minorities are still underrepresented in senior leadership. And at the current pace, gender parity could take over a century in many regions. Second, diversity drives performance companies with the diverse leadership see improved profitability and innovations and retentions. And third, voluntary efforts are significant awareness hasn't translated into enough progress. But case studies like Norway's show that legal mandates can drive faster change. Finally, public opinion is mixed while many support diversity concerns about meritocracy and still hinder support of our quotas. Overall, the issues demands a multifaceted approach. Company legislation, corporate accountability, and long-term cultural transformation to achieve meaningful leadership diversity. And slide 19 to I explain to close leadership diversity gaps. We propose both short and long term actions. In the short term, 1 2 year organization should set a voluntary diversity targets, report DI and pay gap data, and implement unconscious based training and launch a mentorship program, especially pairing high potential women and ethnic minorities with senior executives. The pension regulation 2024 in the long term 3 10 years focus should shift to building sustainable change, and this include developing a strong leadership pipeline for underrepresented groups, reforming board policies to support diversity quotas, and embedding DEI into organizational culture, KPIs, and leadership system. Lastly, cross sector collaborations with universities, NGOs, and public bodies is key to improving access to impact. Together, these strategies can create an inclusive and equitable leadership landscape. In this slide, I explain conclusion. Diversity in a senior leadership is essential for both ethical and business reasons. While voluntary efforts have raised awareness, and they have not delivered systematic change. Legislative action backed by internal culture shifts may be necessary to achieve real progress. The last slide is a references. Thank you for watching.